My father built that house with 30 years of overtime. Every weekend, every holiday, every Saturday morning, when other fathers were sleeping and mine was at the job site, the lumber yard, the hardware store buying things in bulk because bulk was cheaper and cheaper meant the mortgage got paid faster. He wasn't a man of many words, but he was a man of quiet, consistent action. And that house, 3 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, half an acre of land in a neighborhood that had tripled in value since he bought it was the physical proof of every sacrifice he had ever made without complaining. He passed 2 years ago. Heart attack. Fast. No warning. I was the youngest of 4. The only one who had stayed in the same city. The only one who had driven him to chemotherapy the year before. The cancer scare that turned out to be nothing but cost him 6 months of worry and me 6 months of early morning hospital runs before work. The only one who had fixed the roof after the storm. Paid the property tax when he fell short 1/4. Sat with him through the long evenings when the house felt too big and too quiet, and he didn't want to be alone but wouldn't ask anyone to stay. My siblings called on birthdays, sometimes. When my father passed, we all assumed the will was straightforward. He had mentioned it once years ago, said everything would be split for ways. Equal shares. No favorites. My oldest brother, Raymond, had been managing my father's affairs for the last 18 months. Power of attorney, bill payments, paperwork. My father had trusted him completely. I trusted him too, until I didn't. Subscribe to Karma's list and turn on the bell because what Raymond had been doing with that power of attorney is where this story gets dark. The will reading was on a Tuesday. Raymond arrived first. Sat at the head of the table like he was chairing a meeting. My sisters Vanessa and Paula flanked him on either side. I noticed they had all driven together. The attorney read the standard provisions, personal effects, bank accounts, retirement funds, then he got to the house. Raymond had prepared a document. Said our father had updated his wishes verbally in his final months. Said the house should go to him, as executor and primary caretaker with buyout options extended to the other siblings at a reduced rate. Vanessa nodded. Paula had printed copies. They had rehearsed this. I looked at the attorney. He looked at his file. Then he looked up slowly and said, "Before we proceed, there's a secondary filing I need to present." Raymond's expression didn't change immediately. It took about 4 seconds. 4 seconds while the attorney opened a separate folder, removed a document, slid it across the table. A deed transfer, dated 14 months prior, signed by my father, witnessed by his longtime neighbor, Mr. Aldous, and notarized by an independent firm. Raymond had never heard of because my father had been careful about that specifically. The house had already been transferred into a trust, with one named beneficiary, me. Raymond laughed first. Said it was a mistake. Said our father hadn't understood what he was signing. Paula said someone had taken advantage of him. Vanessa said the document needed to be investigated. The attorney let them finish. Then he placed a second document on the table. A letter. My father's handwriting. Dated the same day as the deed. He asked if anyone would like him to read it aloud. Nobody answered. Drop deed in the comments. And like this video. If Raymond's 4-second delay said everything. The next part is the letter. My father was not a man of many words. I said that already. But the letter was for pages. He wrote about the house, about 30 years of overtime, about buying lumber in bulk because bulk was cheaper, about the wraparound porch he had built himself the summer I was 12, and how I had handed him tools without being asked, because I had watched him long enough to know what came next. He wrote about the last 2 years, the chemotherapy mornings, the roof after the storm, the property tax quarter when he fell short. He wrote every date, every amount, every early morning. Then he wrote about Raymond. 14 months before he passed, my father had reviewed his accounts, found irregularities, small transfers, fees that didn't match, a refinancing inquiry made in his name that he had never authorized. He hadn't confronted Raymond directly. He was old and tired and didn't want the fight, but he had called his neighbor, Mr. Aldous. And Mr. Aldous had a son who was a property attorney. The deed transfer took 3 weeks to execute. My father never told Raymond, never told any of them, kept taking Raymond's calls, kept letting him manage the bills, kept every Sunday dinner exactly as it had always been. The letter ended with one paragraph I have read so many times. I don't need the paper anymore. He wrote, "You never asked for anything. You just showed up. Every time, without being asked, you just showed up. That's not a small thing. That's everything. The house goes to the one who treated it like a home and not an asset. Take care of the porch. I built it to last. I couldn't read the rest in that room. I folded it, put it in my bag, and looked at my brother across the table. He looked back, and for the first time in my life, I watched Raymond have nothing to say. Hit the bell and subscribe. The last segment is where the legal reality lands and Raymond finds out exactly how airtight our father's planning was. Raymond hired an attorney by end of week, contested the deed transfer on grounds of diminished capacity, said our father had been confused, manipulated, not fully aware of what he was signing. The opposing evidence was considerable. Mr. Aldous testified that my father had been sharp, specific, and deliberate throughout the entire process, had asked detailed questions, had reviewed the document 3 times before signing. The notary confirmed the same. The property attorney, Mr. Aldous's son, provided a full timeline with communications. Then my father's physician submitted a cognitive assessment from the same month as the deed transfer. Full clarity. No impairment. Not a single notation of concern. Raymond's case collapsed in the preliminary hearing. The judge declined to advance it to trial, ordered Raymond to cover a portion of legal costs. The unauthorized refinancing inquiry my father had found in his accounts, that became a separate matter entirely. One Raymond's own attorney advised him not to contest given the paper trail. There was a quiet settlement. The details are not mine to share publicly, but Raymond's portion of the remaining estate, the accounts, the personal effects, the retirement funds, was significantly affected. Vanessa called me 3 months later, said she hadn't known the full extent of what Raymond had been doing, said she was sorry for sitting on his side of the table. I believed her. Mostly. Paula has not called. The house is mine. I repainted the living room the same color my father chose in 1987 because I found the original paint swatch tucked inside a kitchen drawer and it felt wrong to change it. I fixed a loose board on the wraparound porch last spring. The same porch my father built the summer I was 12. The one I handed him tools for without being asked. He built it to last. He was right. Here is what I have thought about most since all of this settled. My father knew. He knew what Raymond was doing. He knew what the Sunday dinners were covering. He knew which of his children saw the house as a home, and which ones saw it as a number. And he said nothing. He just kept showing up to dinner, kept taking the calls, kept letting everyone believe the ending was still unwritten. While 14 months out quietly, with a neighbor and a notary and 400 pages, he had already written it. That is not luck. That is a father who paid attention and left everything to the child, who did the same. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needed to hear it today. Like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. New stories every single week, and they only get heavier from here. Drop deed in the comments if your father or someone you love deserved exactly this kind of quiet final justice. This has been Karma's List. We keep receipts.